With its mix of fast-paced skirmish-style gameplay and a fantastic IP behind it, Crisis Protocol is fast becoming a modern classic in the tabletop gaming space. It's quickly becoming one of the more popular games here at the Game Chamber, so we need to kit out a table with some terrain for it. Something a little different today, we're going to be building the entirety of this build using a laser cutter. We have a Glowforge here at the Game Chamber, and honestly, we use it for everything. We make custom paint trays, miniature holders, all of our trading cards are stored in boxes that we've made with the laser cutter. We even did the washroom signs. It has many uses, and for a project like this, where we're building some real sort of blocky terrain, it's absolutely perfect. The brick walls and the straight edge cornices of this kind of build are perfect for a laser cutter. We're obviously cutting right through for the size of the parts that we need, but also we're just using it to engrave that brick detail onto the planks as well. Once it's all cut out, we took it out the back and sprayed most of it up. A lot of this build is going to be the devil in the detail. Basically a wooden box that's painted brown and grey, but it's going to really start to pop later on when we get into some of the finer painting techniques. But for now, we're going to spray it up. The real nice thing about the laser cutter is it slightly gives a bit of a burnt sheen to the wood. That comes through a little bit through the paint, and it adds a little bit of depth to the finish, which is really nice. Once it was all painted, we're going to be sticking it all together just using some regular super glue. Each of the windows has a window frame and a window sill, and then the doorway has a few other layers of depth as well. The glass is going to be done with black perspex that's also cut on the laser cutter, and the back door is more of a sort of fire exit door, a bit sturdier. But if you're tackling a project like this, these extra layers like window frames and bits of detail on the door really add to the build and get it a little bit away from the idea that it is just a big wooden box. The cornice details really help finish off the build. And hey, look, there's something else we've cut with a laser cutter, but we can't talk about it yet. Yeah, that's a bit of a surprise. The super glue dries pretty quick, but just in case, we gave it a little time to dry before we started working on some of the detailed paint.
All right, I'm looking for some plastic strips. Usually you buy it from Evergreen scale models. There's a couple of brands. That's one of the more popular ones. Something like that actually might work. I'm just gonna see what my other options are here. Stuff's used in model train industry a lot. It's the same kind of plastic that your regular styrene models are made of, so it's really handy. So this is just our collection of plastics for modeling. Like Jonty said, we don't like to throw things away. We keep them because everything is useful in model making. All right, we're going with that. All right, we're going to take our styrene strip now. We're going to kind of cut it little pieces like that. Just attachment points for some downspout that we're going to use out of these thin. They're actually stir sticks, but they're not bamboo. They're actually pine or whatever, so they're a little different than what you see nowadays. They're a bit older, but wood's wood. This is gonna be totally fiddly, a little melty, might burn myself. We'll see how this goes.
Applying a bit of paint to the dowels to give them a rusty pipe effect is pretty much all we needed here. Then it was a case of attaching them to the building. We're using just regular super glue again, trimming off the dowel where we need to, and then using those little white clips that Tim made to cover up the joints. The main focus with this build was to make it look a bit more interesting using lots of different weathering effects, and weathering effects really look good when they have a reason to be there. So really what you need to do in this kind of build is make sure you've got little bits where stuff can gather, stuff can drip from, all that kind of thing. So these pipes are perfect for it, and also we're using these little pearl stickers to act as sort of large rivets, again to give us a place where we can work some weathering off. With that, I'll pass you on to our weatherman. See what I did.
I keep all my weathering stuff in the same kit. That way I've always got it together. See me pull out some of the stuff before. We got the verdigris. We're going to do some powders. So we got our pigment binder. Do we spray some blood on this? Is there ever a project you shouldn't spray blood on? Wrought, kind of larger brushes that I like to use for the pigments. For pigments, we're going to use some rust. Just a nice set black. This one's by Cromlech. Various browns. We might stick some aggregates onto the walls. We'll have to decide.
First, we use some rust pigment to just take the edge off the white clasps there, and then paint dripping motions down from those rivets. After that, the soot was next. With this stuff, and with most weathering stuff to be honest with you, less is very often more. Use little bits at a time, slowly layering it up, and make sure you really spend the time to feather it out so you don't just get big blobs of pigment. The soot is just going to sit in all of the nooks and crannies, underneath areas like the windowsills and the cornice that overhangs, and it just really does a lot to the build. Some Death Claw Brown from Citadel, some Nurgle's Rot from Citadel as well, and a little bit of white paint gives you really effective bird poo. Genuinely, if there's one thing I'm going to take away from this paint, it's that Nurgle Rot makes bird poo.
Alright, it's all done. And first we'll do an overview of the paints we used, and then we'll check out the result we got. So we used some anti-shine matte varnish just to seal in the powders, Stanley Res primers, Secret Weapon pigment binder, doesn't matter what brand you use. Got some Vallejo pigments, some Cromlech, this one's Cromlech, Soot Black, we got Secret Weapon. Again, doesn't really matter what brand you use, we used mostly Vallejo here. We got Citadel washes, some of the technical paints for the Rot, Deathclaw Brown just for the gross bits. We got some environmental effects, Slime Green. Of course, we always use the BSI brand glues, and here's how it came out. So we got the acrylic windows in. See if we can get some little light to shine. You can kind of see a little bit of reflection there. Don't want to see in. We just want to see that there's windows and they're shiny. Get some rust strips. And we got some bird poop or whatever, and it's a pawn shop. In the future, we'll do more buildings with more air conditioners and different types of things up top, but for this one, this is kind of just a proof of concept to make sure the design worked, make sure the guys like the size, and make sure it fit in well with the terrain they've already got. And they already said they like it, so I think we're going to go ahead and do some more.